Good afternoon, my name is Michael Roanhorse, here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, in my studio. I'm originally from Crystal, New Mexico, Navajo, Tupahan, born for Kiani. Today I'll be showing you my lapidary for a bracelet, a sculpture bracelet that I'm working on, the stone with water web turquoise, and I'm going to go step by step of finishing from the polishing to different grits, and at the same time how it's going to fit into the bracelet itself for a final finish. This is the piece that we are going to be setting the water web turquoise in today. Sterling silver. This is a really good example of the sculpturing side of my pieces that I create. We're going to be setting the stone. It has been already lapidary, cut down to the shape of the size of the bezel. It went through the 400 grit paper, it went through the 800 diamond wheel, and we finished just now on the 800 diamond, and we're going to be going to the 1000 to 1200 grit paper. And as we finish the polishing side of it, it comes from the fitting from the last wheel. We will take it into sandpaper from all these other grits, from coming from 1000 all the way down to 2200. We're looking for a contour shape like this. This is perfectly round, with, in this case, without having any types of corner shots up on I guess you could say peaks. Let's call them peaks, because each one of those peaks that are coming, if you're looking at it like this, let's say it's like this, and the next one comes down like this, this point between here and here is the wheel. Is when you really look closely on the diamond wheel or the wheel, that's the part that's taking that little section out. And as you go to the next little angle, and I'm talking, you're going probably about 20 to 30 angles all the way across the stone. Here's your next angle, and that angle there, the wheel is taking that section out there again, and vice versa. Then you go to the next part, that's another section of the wheel that's taking that part out. And with that, you have these little tiny grooves or little tiny pivots or points. And those points, in order to get those down, we have to take it onto a sandpaper. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to apply the stick, which you can use another type of, like a dauber wax that actually you melt on. In this case, I'm going to use super glue on the bottom, and it gives me a little bit more control, and that's going to allow the piece to stay steadily onto the stick as I'm doing the lapidary work. And to speed up the holding, so to speak, process, I have this quick drawing. What that does is it just helps secure it faster for the super glue. And as it dries, this will be easier to manage as we're using the lapidary. And I'm going to start with one corner from the top, and what I do is I come in and rotate the piece very slowly. As it comes over each side, you're starting to not only rotate it, you're actually starting to move the piece, and you're working your way all the way up to the very top. Once you get to the very top, then you'll start to see how those little rivets or peaks are. You start seeing everything start to take shape, and you have a full shape to the top, all the way around the sides. Then that's when we move over and start doing them by hand. As we're rotating it down from one level and we're going up, you start to rotate it again in a circular motion clockwise. Then you're going to start rotating from one side here, because as you're rotating it, you're actually bringing it up too, so that you get from one side here all the way to the top and all the way back down to the bottom. And with that, you're looking at the whole contour of the shape of the stone. Water, even with sanding, it gives you that extra grit inside that will not only give you a better polishing with more grit on it, it actually gives you a cooling process. This wheel, which is on the side, is the leather buckskin area. And what this is going to do is it'll start to give a little bit of that shine that we're looking for. In the same way that we worked on with using the wheels on this side, and with the hand sandpaper, we're actually doing the same types of rotation In this case, there is some cushion on there, so it actually can give a little bit more contour. Always got to be careful as you're applying this on and rotating on here that you don't get it too hot, or else the stone will crack. Right now you can already see the finished piece on this that has a really nice glare to it, a really nice finish to it. We are going to do a final phase to this where it's going to be high shine with a leather wheel. And in this case, I have one that's already set just for stonework. And just like that last one we were doing, where it only has a pressure of 2 now to like 1, so light. That's why I love using a Dremel, because it's a foot control. You don't have to be using that at a really high speed. You're just taking that last little areas that you probably couldn't really hit too much on that wheel. Typically what works for myself, ironically, are old toothbrushes. Hopefully it's something that we don't get confused and use it at the same time. That would be bad. This part here, we're coming in with just a wet bristle, and we're just lightly going over any little areas that have a little bit of that compound that kind of got captured inside the matrix. If you have a lot of matrix in there, you might get a lot more, because the peaks and valleys are so small, and just probably millimeters of, just so small, less than the hair length, that even the compound could get caught in there. And this part of it is just the easy way of just coming in and lightly brushing into those crevices. And if you think about it, or we look deeply into what we're doing, this is the turquoise here, and the matrix is here, and the level of that matrix is basically like this on the bottom. Right here is the mud in the matrix. So you still have a spot in here that the compound is getting caught inside. So what I'm doing is I'm coming in and I'm just taking that little part out so that you can actually see more of the matrix versus that white compound in there. The way I even create or design my bracelets, I'm the worst critic. I have to look at it in and out every single time to make sure the piece is done with quality and caress, so that, and it goes to its new owner. I'm very happy with the piece, and if I took many hours to put it together, that part of it is what separates each artist. That's what they are known for. For myself, the thought process all the way down to what am I looking for when I'm going to start designing or creating a bracelet, a ring, any type of jewelry. You have to go through all these procedures, and there's so many levels to even create a stone, all the way down to creating a bracelet, and then putting them together and making sure everything comes together. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the stone off of the stick, and we're going to go ahead and apply it onto the bracelet. I usually take a last little scrape on the bottom. In this case, it's not going to make any difference. You can see that it is all natural, doesn't have any backings on there. They come out from a straight piece of turquoise that was in the raw stage. So as I get ready to set the piece, it's trying to get all the preparations for the stone setting on the inside with the bezel. This point right here, which will be the crown part, this corner section, is where the prong is actually going to come up on the turquoise and fit just like a 32nd or less above that crown, so that when I push on the bezel, it'll fit right on to the turquoise all the way around, so that it gives it a perfect setting. So right now I'm applying the sawdust. By looking at it, you can figure what a little estimate might be. Some stones, when you're working with them, might be what you might have a bottom of the stone might be a little bit higher, where that little corner comes off, and then one side might be very low. So when you have that, the stone may not be totally straight. It may have a little bit of a pitch. So to compensate that pitch, you add a little more sawdust to the side that doesn't have it. And that's how you start to manage to float some of these stones to look like they're perfectly even. The way I do the setting on it is to press down firmly onto the turquoise, giving the pressure to come down onto the sawdust, push pressuring, and at the same time moving over the bezels. Each prong, this one may have about maybe 30 or so prongs. And as I push it over, on one side, I actually come right directly over without letting up the pressure on the stone. Turn right around. Same process that I did on the other side. What they came up with and invented is a great tool, which is called a hammer drill. Has the same flat setting like it did on the hand tool for holding it. This actually has a little tiny hammer that is going to be going back in rotation up and down. And what that does is it helps set the stone without having you to push so much because it's really hard to get into. This little wheel is actually going to clean up any type of process that I was using for the hammer. It's really small, but I know that they're there. So as I'm doing this, I'm cleaning it up, but it's also smoothing out a little bit of the bezel itself. This probably, it started as, like I said, a 20 gauge thick. By the time I get down to the very, very tiny prong setting, it's probably about paper width at the very, very tip of it. And from that, and there's the piece. There's the final stages of it, set perfectly. The bezel in different angles. You can look very, very close, and the silver, as it tapers onto the turquoise, the gap between that is very, 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 very small. I enjoyed doing this, and I also enjoyed explaining and talking about turquoise, the high end to being fake to the side of where it fits well with my pieces on it.